How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 5000. Today is January 26, 2022. As today, we're going to focus on, of course, this next major blizzard that's going to impact the Northeast with strong winds, heavy snow, as well as intense coastal flooding along the coast that could bring flooding to many areas right along the East Coast. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at this key message directly from the National Weather Service regarding this next snowstorm, because it says really interesting things here. So let's read. A winter storm is likely to create significant impacts across New England Friday night through Sunday. Notable impacts may also extend along the East Coast through North Carolina. So that, like the excerpt says, this could extend as far south as North Carolina and Virginia, where you see the moderate impact area is quite large, extending from Maine all the way down to northeastern North Carolina. So make sure to be aware of that right around the Virginia Beach and surrounding areas, and of course areas further northward. And if we continue across New England, heavy snow and strong winds are likely to which could lead to blowing snow, scattered power outages, and some damage. So at this point, it seems likely that New England will experience a blizzard at this point. I think that's pretty much in agreement by both of the major computer models and by the National Weather Service themselves, like they said here, as in New England, you should prepare for a blizzard that's going to happen this weekend, where it does become a little uncertain, like the National Weather Service states right here, is extending from New York City through Washington, D.C. I'd say anywhere east of, let's say, Hartford, Connecticut, that's where the forecast does become a little bit more uncertain, because right now, along the East Coast, along the Interstate 95 corridor cities east of Hartford, Connecticut, the range of snowfall pretty much extends from either experiencing 2 feet of snow to only experiencing right around 3 inches of snow, as that's the margin of error we're talking about here when talking about snow forecasts, let's say, west of Hartford, Connecticut. So it's a little bit more uncertain as you go west, but I'd say it's pretty certain that New England will experience a major blizzard out of this. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And you're probably wondering, well, why is it still so uncertain for anywhere the areas west of Hartford, Connecticut? Because that's gonna be because we're only several days out from the event. Well, it's all because of the two main computer models still having big disagreements with each other. I was hoping that today that we'll at least get some sort of pretty good agreement, or where both the computer models are right around the ballpark when it comes to the snow forecast for the Northeast. And while that has happened for, I'd say, New England at this point, where it's pretty certain you guys will experience over a foot of snow through New England, like I said, west of Hartford, Connecticut, it's still uncertain, because if we were to first take a look at the GFS model, if we were to continue to move forward, you're gonna see that the GFS model is completely disagreeing. Well, I wouldn't say completely, because they're both agreeing that it's going to bring heavy snowfall to New England, but it's still uncertain if you head further westward, because you look at the GFS model, you see that while we do see some snow right around New England and southeastern Massachusetts, you see west of Hartford, Connecticut, there's no snow, and New York City, Philadelphia, and even Washington, D.C. is pretty much right on the border of receiving snowfall to not receiving snowfall at all in the GFS model. And in this scenario, the New York City, Philadelphia would experience maybe around 1 to 3 inches of snow only, based on what the GFS model is saying, as it expects the slow pressure system to stay far enough to the east to where the heavier snow bands won't impact you guys, and it won't be as long of a duration event, because you're going to be on the extreme outskirt of the snowfall right around New York City and Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. So, but you see that still southeastern New England still gets impacted by very heavy snowfall, and Boston gets impacted by heavy snowfall. And another thing that's very interesting is look at that millibar pressure, 956 millibars. That's equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. For comparison, Hurricane Sandy at landfall was, I'm pretty sure, around 940 millibars. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure Hurricane Sandy at landfall right around Atlantic City was right around 940 millibars. This is at 956 millibars, and that isn't that far from Hurricane Sandy strength. Of course, I'm not saying there's going to be another Hurricane Sandy. It's probably going to be far from another Hurricane Sandy, since this low pressure system is going to pretty much stay off the coast of the United States in general, while, of course, Hurricane Sandy make landfall, and of course Hurricane Sandy is still the stronger storm in this scenario. But this really goes to show you how powerful this storm is at 956 millibars, equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. So you should expect extremely strong winds and coastal flooding along the New England coast especially, and potentially further westward into New Jersey, Long Island, and Delmar Peninsula if this low pressure system moves west enough, which as of now the GFS model does not expect the storm to move that far west, but it's still expecting a decent amount of strong winds in New Jersey. Let me show you now the European model. Well, actually, no. Let me first show you the snowfall accumulation of a GFS model, and we'll do a little bit of a side-by-side comparison between the two computer models. So if we were to take a look at the total accumulated snowfall, keep in mind this is assuming 1 inch of rain equates 10 inches of snow, so it is a little, the snow totals might be a little bit inflated if there's, let's say, there's a higher ratio of precipitation within each snowflake. But if I were to show you the snow forecast, you see that New York City, Philadelphia are pretty much hugging the I-95 corridor. You see that you're right in between potentially 3 to 6 inches of snow to no snow at all in northwestern New Jersey. And so it's going to be a very close forecast. Washington, D.C. is still experiencing, I'd say, right around 1 to 3 inches of snow. Philadelphia, same thing. And New York City, as a GFS model, does not expect the snow to move at that far west enough to bring the heaviest snowfall to New York City. But you, of course, see in New England, especially southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island, you see that you're experiencing well over a foot of snow, and this extends to Boston as well, and the eastern portion of Maine. So you see that the GFS model wants to take the heavier snow further eastward rather than bring it further westward. But it's a completely different story when we take a look at the European model. We're gonna have to wait and see once the 0Z run comes out of the European model if it still maintains the fact that there's going to be a heavy snowfall further westward. But if I were to move forward with the forecasts, let this load a little bit more, you're going to see that it's bringing much heavier snow for a lot of the Northeast. This isn't okay now. It's here. You see that in this case, New York City is experiencing, I'd say, right around 6 to 12 inches. Same goes for Philadelphia, and even southeastern Massachusetts is experiencing heavier snow, where Boston is experiencing over 20 inches of snow in this scenario, and this extends to Long Island as well. Hartford, Connecticut's experiencing 6 to 12 in the European model's case, and Washington, D.C., it's still pretty much the same when it comes to snowfall. So I'd say the confidence you'll receive maybe around 1 to 3 inches is pretty high for Washington, D.C., but for Philadelphia, New York City, Hartford, it becomes more uncertain because we have two different model runs taking completely different snowfalls pretty much for those cities, but still around the ballpark when it comes to New England. But I will still maintain the fact that New England, still prepare for a blizzard. It's likely to happen for you guys. I'm mainly specifically talking about anywhere west of Hartford. Like I said, just want to put that out there so you guys don't necessarily get confused that the snowstorm is still entirely uncertain, because it's still pretty certain at this point New England will experience a blizzard. But yeah, we're gonna just have to wait and see which computer model wins out and which computer model will be the more correct one within the next couple hours. Like I said, what will determine the trajectory of this storm is how far south this jet stream dips, because if it dips far south enough, we're going to see that cold air interact with the warmer air located right around the Gulf of Mexico a little bit more, and that'll increase the instability, increase the convection, and as the convection increases, so does the wind, and as the wind increases, so does the probability of a negative tilt, because we're going to see a low pressure along this jet stream sort of manipulate the position of this low pressure system thanks to how strong the winds are, because if this low pressure system is a little bit stronger, we're more likely to see a strong easterly flow on the north side, and that would steer a lot of that warm air further northward and the cool air further southward to create a negative tilt, which would in turn steer the storm a little bit to the west before it moves directly out into the northeast. And also what a more pronounced jet stream does is that it's pretty much positions the jet stream to a point where it's bringing more of a southerly wind rather than a westerly wind. So, and that would of course steer this low pressure system closer along the coast for a major blizzard to occur. So we still need to make sure and pay close attention to how the jet stream maneuvers itself so over the next several days, and how strong of a northerly flow we'll see over the next couple, I'd say 24 to 48 hours before we can make a confident conclusion regarding this snowstorm. But like I said, New England should expect a heavy snowfall, and whether the GFS model and the European model is correct, what you should expect is very strong winds. Let me show you the wind forecast provided from the GFS model, where I think wind gusts could occasionally gust over hurricane force in some areas in New England, which would easily cause power outages in those areas. So let this load up and we're going to see just how strong the winds will be. This is in knots, but I'll make sure to convert it for you guys into miles per hour. So if we were to take a look at the wind forecast for the northeast within the next several days, I apologize it's taking so long. But you're gonna see that the winds will just be very strong throughout the northeast. Okay, now it's starting to load just a little bit, just hoping it could show this one before I move on. So yeah, it's still taking long to load, but point is that the New England, Long Island, I think you could experience wind gusts well over 60 miles per hour, and that will create a coastal flooding concern, especially since the snow pressure system is going to be deep into the Atlantic. So it's going to have a large fetch where the waves will pretty much pile up, and the winds will be able to pile up so much of the Atlantic Ocean water and push it right along the coast, especially more towards New England. So coastal flooding, I'd say, for New England is likely, and it's possible for areas further westward as well, such as New England, Long Island, Long Island, New Jersey, the Delmar Peninsula. Those areas could experience some coastal flooding, so it's definitely something you want to pay close attention to along the coast in the northeast. Okay, this does seem to be loading up, but like I said, prepare for strong winds, power outages, and coastal flooding along the coast for the northeast. Now let me show you my updated snowfall forecast regarding this major blizzard. So what a key difference I added is that I did put the 6 to 12 inch category a little bit westward, as it seems like the GFS model over the past several runs has further eastward, as it seems like the GFS model over the past several runs has been more lenient and persistent on bringing the heavier snow further eastward, which as a result, I decided to adjust my forecast slightly to where the 6 to 12 inch category is a little bit eastward as well. And same goes for the European model, but I still think there's there's still a large margin of error right around New York City, Philadelphia, and Hartford, Connecticut, where I think, like I said, the snowfall ranges from either experiencing maybe only 3 inches of snow in New York City to potentially up to 20 inches of snow in New York City, as that's still not out of the question, as there is still a large margin of error. As of right now, I'm pretty much putting it right in the middle for New York City, 6 to 12 inches of snow, but I'd say be prepared for changes in the forecast over the next several days, because it's far from certain for New York City and Philadelphia. But For Boston, I expect 12 to 24 inches of snow, so this will be a significant snowstorm for you guys, extending to southeastern Massachusetts as well, and extending to the eastern portion of Maine. That's where you could expect over a foot of snow, so make sure to keep that in mind in those areas. And like I wrote here, intensity could be equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane, where the millibar pressure could drop to 956 millibars just off the New England coast. So make sure to prepare for just very strong winds. Like I said, wind gusts could occasionally gust over 70 miles per hour. So make sure to prepare throughout the Northeast. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a great day.